Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the latest edition of Lunchtime Learnings. I'm delighted and honoured to be joined today by Cheryl Thompson, who is a coach, a mentor, a teacher, a consultant on how to deal with really difficult and challenging conversations with people. I have the pleasure of listening to Cheryl at the Women in the State Agency conference, where Cheryl was the headline speaker, and I thought you were absolutely exceptional at the end. Really, really good. And what was an incredible day, I think you made even better by what you said at the end. And I thought you were absolutely fantastic. So it was lovely to meet you there. And I'm incredibly grateful because I know you're a badass Yorkshire lady who doesn't really give up time a lot. So I'm incredibly grateful for you giving up your lunch today to share your learning. So thank you. You're very welcome. So that's enough of a nice introduction and the niceties. Tell us about Cheryl, about your career, how you started and how you became this badass coach.
Oh, that's a long conversation. So how did I get here? Well, I've always been in financial services, so banking. I started out as a bank manager too long ago, 20 odd years ago, in Doncaster as well, so in Yorkshire. And my mum had been in banking, so I think it was probably a little bit in my blood. Financial services was important, money was important, and I think there's always a bit of shame around money as well. Specifically for women, there tends to be shame around money. So I was quite interested in it and curious about it. So that's where I started a long time back. I always think I was really privileged with where I started in banking as well, because I started at two building societies which were ethical, they were fair, they were decent, they cared about their people, they cared about leadership and management. So I had this incredible foundation of where to start from. And then I left and I saw the other side of financial services, which wasn't quite so ethical and fair and decent. But I also think, being from Yorkshire, and this, I'm very proud of being from Yorkshire, we're a good sort. You know, we're straightforward, we're decent, we want to do the right thing. We call a spade, and I still do. You know, I'm very direct and straightforward. So I had that in me too, that if I was going to do any kind of work, it was always going to be ethical and human focused. So it's interesting, some of the things I did 20 odd years ago in my leadership career, and I'm now a coach and a mentor, teaching people about leadership, helping them explore their own leadership development. Some of the things I was doing 20 years ago, people are talking about today as if they're these revolutionary ways of being. And what they simply are is being human and not managing like a robot or like a tick box exercise. It's about seeing the human in front of you and connecting at a heart level and a mind level and a somatic, a bodily connection with somebody, and understanding what it is they need and how you can facilitate that and help them to facilitate answering their own needs. And interestingly, that's exactly what I do today in coaching and mentoring. So I've had a 20-year career going from bank management, intern. This is where I met Verona, who brought me to the Women in Estate Agency conference. We worked together in mortgage services. I was an area and sales compliance manager. We worked there together. And then I went into consultancy. I worked at the Financial Ombudsman. So I've always been within financial services, but just different parts of it. And always stayed true to who I am as a human. And you know, Stephen, as well, I earned some ridiculous amounts of money as well along the way. Really big numbers where people say to me, "What is it you do?" My mum never got it. She knew what I earned, and she'd be like, what do you have to do for that money? I'm like, I just get stuff done, Mum. Get stuff done in a really good way that takes people along a journey with me. She never still doesn't get it. But the one thing, and I think money is a really interesting thing, because I mentioned it at the beginning, and the shame that people can have with money. I also think people can get almost drunk on money and power. And and they can start to believe their own hype and, sorry to swear, but their own bullshit. You know, think, well, I earn this amount of money, so that must mean I'm kind of a big deal. But what I always did was stay true to who I was at my core and my roots. And I think that gave me a different lens in my leadership career. I wasn't willing. You didn't get to buy me. I turned up. I knew what my worth was within my career. I knew how to empower other people. I knew how to get them to be able to understand who they were and what their needs and were, be able to communicate those without fear. And I just happened to earn a lot of money along the way and have a lot of people who respected me for doing that. But it wasn't my reason for being. My reason for being was always human focused and being true and ethical. So sticking to my values. So that's what got me here.
Okay, well, brilliant. Look, you got a couple of comments already. So thank you, Andrew Ward. So you're a coach of badassery. And thank you for watching and commenting. And Lord Neil Giller. So you got a Lord watching it. Being human, staying true, equal preach, Cheryl. So thank you both for commenting. Really appreciate it. God, there's loads to unpick there, Cheryl.
I told you I could talk, Steve.
Where do we start? So leadership then. What do you think from your experience makes a great leader?
Someone who cares.
Somebody that cares.
Somebody that cares. Somebody that won't be bought. Somebody that can make difficult decisions. Because that's the thing, you see, people, when you see on LinkedIn, people talk about leadership and it's always the sunshine and rainbow and, lovely parts of leadership. And I live with integrity. And, we have to live with integrity. But sometimes, it's not sometimes, let me correct that. There will always be a point in your leadership career where you have to do something that makes you feel sick. But as long as you can look in the mirror and say it's for the right reasons. I've had to sack numerous people. And I've never, ever had somebody attack me for it because I've always been able to say, this is why it's important. This role's not for you. And let's talk it through. I've been taken to court for these things. And the person who's actually been taken to court said, it's not about you. I've just been told I should and you did everything right. And we've hugged it out, still the company was taken to court and we won, by the way, because we'd done everything the right way. There will be times where you think, I can't do this. This isn't comfortable. But as long as you can say, I've done the right thing for the right reasons at the right time for the right people and mean that and know that, then then you have to do the thing. What I always say is, and I've had, like I say, some big difficult decisions to make. And I've always said, I'd rather it be me doing those things, even though they're not pleasant, because if I do it, I'll do it with full love and respect and dignity. I'll take care of you along the way. I'll be able to show you next steps in your life and your career and what you need to do. But nobody talks about the really back-breaking, horrific parts of leadership. They just talk about, I've got this big title and I've got this big salary package and I've got this. It's not always sunshine and roses is essentially what I'm saying. So for me, it's being able to make those difficult decisions with truth and care.
Okay, thank you.
I'll also say having that vision. Because there's a difference between management and leadership, and both are important. And I don't think any one person, if you're a leader, you have to be able to manage things as well. You have to be able to manage, if it's systems, if it's your own processes, you have to be self-managed and self-led before you can manage and lead anything else or anybody else. But you've also got to have that visionary capability. So where is it you're going? And when you have that vision, you have to see it in full clarity with all of your senses. You can't just go, we're going there. You have to embody that vision. And not everyone can do that. But leaders should be able to do that.
Okay, so I want to come back on something that you said there. So there's a lot of people that are going to be watching this that struggle to get out of their comfort zone. And obviously the magic happens when you do get uncomfortable being comfortable or comfortable being uncomfortable, or whichever way around it is.
It's comfort in the discomfort. Funnily enough, me and Andrew had that exact conversation yesterday, Andrew Ward.
Okay, great. So again, how do you get out of your comfort zone? Because there's a lot of people that want to get out of their comfort zone, but just really, really struggle. How would you advise people to take that first step?
Well, it depends on who you are, because if you're asking me, Cheryl Thompson, how I get out of my comfort zone, it would be very different to how the next person gets out of their comfort zone. So it depends on who you are. And I would tell everybody who's listening to this to spend some serious time getting to know yourself first. So if I'm just going to answer just for now, for me, I have this big fear of being afraid. which has got me into all kinds of trouble in my life, especially when I was younger. But the thought of me saying I didn't do it because I was scared actually scares me more. So then I have to just do it. It's as really clumsy and clunky as that for me. I have to do it. That's for me personally. When it comes to leadership and there's other people involved and you might hurt somebody if you get it wrong, I think a real good rule of thumb for everybody is to ask why it matters. Why do you have to do this? And I'm by trade and naturally a risk manager as well. So I risk assess everything I'm going to do. So if I, just even if you say something like dismissing somebody, sacking someone, performance managing someone, telling somebody that the behavior is not enough or not right. And this can be in your personal life as well, telling a partner or a family member, I'm not okay with this. This isn't comfortable for me. That's a difficult thing to do. So how do you get to be able to do that is you literally, and I would say get a pen and a piece of paper, go old school. Even though I'm an app person, for when you're doing something like this, writing is really important. And you have to just ask yourself a series of questions. And it's things like, why am I doing this? And when you answer why I'm doing it, the first answer won't be it. It's just your brain giving you like a fancy answer. So you almost need to go, come on, really, why are you doing this? So you say it's because of X. What else? What else? What else? And your brain will come up with answers. And so just write them down and write them down with zero judgment. Don't try and make the answers perfect. Just flow. And then I would also say, this is the risk part of it. What is the risk of not having this conversation or not doing this thing? What is the risk of doing nothing? What is the risk of doing something? Who could get hurt along the way? Who could say X, Y? How could this impact me? What you're trying to assess there is, what is the cost of doing nothing? What's the real cost? And if the cost's not that high, maybe it's not that important to you. So that's how you assess it first off.
Thank you. And would you have that conversation when you're coaching with somebody to get them think? Because for me, I think everybody knows the answer to the question, and it's deep inside them, and it's just getting them to get it out. And I remember when I was in a business group and I had an issue and I got whatever the question was, and I said, no, I don't know. And then the question that came back to me, well, if you did know, what would the answer be? And then it was, no, I still don't know. No, if you did know, what would the answer be? And I think eventually after the 9th time of going very red and deep breathing and hyperventilating, I actually came out with the answer. And it was a really uncomfortable conversation. And I found it very, very difficult. But I tell you what, I felt so much better after knowing that I knew what the answer was. But I believe it's inside us.
And that's why I'm not a pure coach. I'm a mentor and a coach and a consultant, and I do training and teaching. A pure coach, if you've ever actually seen a pure 100% coach, and this is why sometimes it disappoints me that the coaching industry is almost undermined by some people. A pure coach is hard. I'm not a pure coach. Pure coaching won't give you the answer no matter what. And when I work with my clients, I have to almost say, right, we're going to do some coaching now, or we're not going to do some coaching. I have to signpost it, because coaching can be really painful because somebody won't give you the answer and they won't let you away with not having. So, and in a really gentle way, like with your saying on the 9th time. So what if you did know? Yeah, but I don't know. And people can get really mad and like, but I don't know. And I've been in that situation. I've cried because I'm like, I genuinely don't know. But what if? You're like, oh. And you can sit there, because all the time there's a bit part in the back of your brain that's going, we know, by the way, we know. And then going through your little filing cabinets thinking, what do we know about this? And it's normally firewalled behind loads of fear, where it says, yeah, but we don't say that. And we don't admit it, because if we admit it, we might have to go and do it. So it just deflects and deflects and deflects until enough time has passed and you go, okay, maybe I could do this. And then it starts to flow. Another good question is, what would you tell your best friend if they had this same issue? Because we're brilliant at giving advice. We don't like to need help ourselves. We like to help other people. So if you switch the roles and say, okay, so if somebody came to you, somebody you absolutely worshipped, somebody you loved and respected, and they said X, what would you say to them? Oh, well, And straight away, someone's got an answer then. Okay, how would that feel applying it to your own situation? Oh, right. And it's just being able to use those questions to get people to explore themselves, because everybody always has their own answer, and people are more likely to action their own answers than they are likely to action your answers.
100%. Brilliant. Thank you. So you talk about people coming to you, or you helping people overcome difficult conversations. So can you give me an example of that and how that would work, please?
An example of the difficult conversations? It depends, because some of them are workplace. It's interesting, when people come to me, they tend to come to me for work issues. And then they can become very personal, so in their private life or family life. But if we stick to work issues, because that's safer for everybody. So the work issues might be they're getting bullied at work. They might be that they're getting sexually harassed at work. It might be that they're literally having boundaries breached left, right, and centre, that they're working too many hours, they're not getting any credit or any recognition for what they do. They might also be, and this is an interesting one, because what tends to happen is people come to me about, and they have a villain of their story. So they come to me to tell me about their boss or their colleague, the person that leaves at 5 o'clock every day and they stay till 8 o'clock. And so the first few sessions are typically about this other person, and that's fine. And we talk through it. It's a bit of a spoiler here. Spoiler for anyone who ends up working with me. The difficult conversation normally ends up being with the self. Because what we do, and what I've found, is that issue that you have with that one person is normally actually quite similar to an issue you probably had in your personal life when you were younger, and likely had with a parental figure or a sibling. And you're perpetuating that same issue. So you've just got this repeat pattern. And this person doesn't realize they've got this repeat pattern until we just talk it through, and over a number of sessions. And it's then like light bulbs start to go off, because they go, oh my God, this is like what I used to have when I spoke to my dad. Oh my God. And actually I have the same problem with my partner. And you see them just making these connections. And I'm never surprised, because normally when we have an issue in one area of our life, it's actually in several areas of our lives. We've just not connected the dots. And then what we have to do is go, and what's the commonality? And it's us. We're it. So what are we tolerating in our world that's just showing up in lots of different places? So you might not be able to tell your boss that they're asking too much of you. Well, actually, you probably don't tell your dad the same thing. And you probably don't tell your partner. You probably don't tell your best friend. And then we go, right, so what do we need to do differently then? So the problem, is it still with your boss, or is it somewhere else? And it's always here. And then that's what we start working on. And it's normally a boundary issue. It's normally a self-worth issue. You know, why have we tolerated people doing this to us throughout our whole life? And if we continue to not recognize this issue, what will be happening in the next 2, 5, 10 years? And are you okay with that? And that's where they normally go. And they're the harder conversations, because a lot of people then realize that they're at the root cause of this.
So how do you build your self-worth as a person?
That's such a big question. I think...
Okay, what 3 things do you think would help people build their self-worth?
Acceptance is a big thing. So I think this world that we're living in has told us perfection exists. And I think perfection does exist, but I think it's so different to what people believe it is. So we're always, we're comparing ourselves to somebody on social media or to somebody else, but none of it's true, or it's a fraction of it's true. We don't really know people's path and what they're walking. We don't know what they're experiencing. So we're just comparing something with a falsehood. And I think when we start to accept that we don't have to be perfect all the time, that we don't even have to be perfect any of the time, that we're still lovable even if we mess things up, I think that goes a really big way to self-acceptance. And also, I think a lot of the people that I speak to tend to have root cause issues with their parents. And when we realize that our parents are just humans, they're just adults winging it too. You know, we have this, it's a bit of a hard thing to go through when, because most people are still trying to prove themselves to their mum or their dad. Typically their dad, actually, with the people I work with, but tends to, you know, mum or dad, but typically dad. And they're trying to have this validation from this person that they may never get, because you can't control another human. So it's almost having this self-acceptance with all your flaws. And I don't know if you remember at the Women in Estate Agent conference where I said, which is a bit of an awkward thing to say now, but I was like, try standing naked in front of the mirror and telling yourself, I love you. I love you. And looking yourself in the, you know, like literally in the eyes in the mirror and saying, I love you. I challenge anyone watching this to go and do that and look deep into their own eyes and tell them and mean it. Not just go, I love you, I love you, I love you. Like, mean it. Tell it as if you're saying the most incredible human, I love you. I'd be surprised if people didn't get emotional doing that, because that's all the soul's really looking for. And how often do we stop to do that? And we're telling somebody else that we need to hear I love you from them, like from our mum or our dad, or even if it's our boss. You know, obviously we don't want our boss to say I love you, but it's a version of I respect you, I see you, I value you, you matter to this company. We're searching for it everywhere apart from where we really need it, which is from us. So actually, I think of all the things somebody could do to get their self-worth up is to go and do that, to start looking here for validation. And the other thing I'd say just on top of that, this is with anxiety, with everything, you've got to catch your brain. It plays tricks on you. It's bullshitting you all the time. If you know, like the thoughts that we come up with aren't true. So you've got to be able to go, really? And like self-challenge. And when your brain has had habits and you've got this ego inside you, that's the whole purpose is to keep you safe, to keep you alive, to keep your heart beating. That's its whole function. So if something's a bit scary, a bit risky, we're not going to do that. If something might reject us or hurt us or say you weren't quite good enough, then we won't do it. So we get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And that is the ego's job, to keep us safe. And we've got to go, I've got this, and I'm willing to take a risk. I'm willing for someone to say it was a bit rubbish, and that's okay. I'm still a good human. You know, if I mess this podcast up, no one's going to shoot me. I'm still okay. I'm still here. And it's having that ability to go, it's okay. Just get back up again tomorrow. But we don't. We believe our own bullshit sometimes, and we get carried away. I hope you don't mind me swearing, Stephen. I should have asked.
No, you just corrupted me twice. But then after what I heard you say at that Women in the Estate Agency conference, I think I'm corrupted full stop now.
That's true. I shouldn't. I was going to say we've met before. I shouldn't have to apologise for my swearing because I wasn't swearing. But it's catching your own brain, because your brain has had however many years you're alive of keeping you safe. So you sometimes need to just catch it in its tracks. And what people tend to do is, if their thoughts creep up on them again, they go, oh, I'm rubbish at this. I can't catch my brain, Cheryl. I tried once and it wasn't perfect, so there's no point doing this again. This is you undoing and unpacking, for me, 40 odd years worth of habitual thinking. So it's not going to happen just once. You've got to keep that momentum on. Caught you. And celebrate the fact that you caught it and gone, it's not true, is it? What is true is that you're incredible and that you're worth it. Brilliant. And then be proud of yourself that you caught it. And then when it sneaks in again and your doubt sneaks in and you catch it again, go, got you again. I'm incredible. And then you're sort of compounding the celebration of yourself rather than compounding the, oh, I let it slip again.
So one of the words that definitely resonated with me and something that I learned was acceptance. So my wife passed away a couple of years ago. And I really wish she was here today. And obviously she's not. Last year I had exceptionally dark thoughts where I just didn't want to be here. I wanted to be with Sam. And I learned 3 words: acceptance, understanding, and acknowledge. You know, and I've got to accept the fact that she's not going to come back. You know, I acknowledge it and understand it. And also understand that, you know what, it's maybe normal to have these dark thoughts. And these dark thoughts will happen from time to time, and I've got to accept it and acknowledge it. But you're right, it's okay to have those dark thoughts. And there are better things that will happen. but I can control those better things. And acceptance was a massive word for me. And also when I was at work many years ago at Green & Co, I had exceptionally high expectations of myself and everybody else, and people didn't match my expectations. And I got exceedingly frustrated by it. And then one word that came up was accept the fact that people have different standards. And as soon as I accepted that, I didn't stress as much. I was a lot more relaxed, and I understood actually that, you know what, why would people have the same standards as me? You know, and I had to look at myself, and that made a massive difference. So what you said definitely resonated with me in a big way. And also when you talk about toleration, you know, I think the more you tolerate, the more you're going to end up getting the same thing back all the time. So I think it is really important to have these difficult, challenging, fierce conversations with people. But I suppose for some people, it's like they don't want to have the conversations. There's, you know, I think you hit the nail on the head. They're fearful, and I think you said you're fearful.
I'm afraid of being fearful.
Of not having those conversations. But so how do you just start? I know we talked about, you know, starting getting out your comfort zone, but how do you build up that I'm going to have that conversation with Cheryl today, and just do it, you know? And I've mentioned just do it once, you've mentioned just do it once. I remember at the conference when you asked at the end, which was a brilliant question. So you've had a great day. What's the one thing you're actually going to take away and implement today? And I remember somebody saying, I'm just going to fucking do it now. That'd be really interesting to see whether they have just fucking done it or not.
Find that person, let's ask them.
I don't know who it was. But again, you know, how do you start? How do you get started having that conversation? Because of that fear that I'm going to get the answer that's no, or fear that I don't want, you know, they don't want to hear me.
It's a really good question, but especially connected to having a conversation. If you don't mind, I'm going to sort of tell you a story and then answer the question. I will answer the question. So I've never given birth to children, but I have 2 stepchildren, and they came into my life 5 years ago. They are now coming up 12 and 10, boy and a girl, and they're really shy and quiet. And the dad is, you know, that's why it works, because I'm the talker and he's really gentle and quiet. But when I met these 2 children, it was really unusual, because if I'd ever had children, I'd never wanted children, but if I'd ever had them, I would have imagined they would have been more like me, you know, talkative. And I was always really courageous as a child. I was very lucky. My granddad taught me about courage. And I could tell you another story on that. And I'm so grateful for it. And he told me I would have to live my life. He said to me, I won't go into the full story, but he basically said to me, this is going to be your life forever, Cheryl. You're going to have to be courageous for you, and you're going to have to be courageous for other people that haven't got courage themselves. And I was probably about 8 or 9, and it never left me that. So that's a big thing as well. My granddad was a really important human in my world. So, and he's been long gone, my granddad. So I always think my granddad's legacy needs to carry on. So with these 2 mini humans, they were terrified of the world and really shy, really painfully shy. And it was just we were in lockdown, and we'd go for a walk and we'd see like an old man walking his dog, and he'd say hello. And my 2 stepchildren would do this. And my granddad also used to say to me, always say hello to elderly people, because they might live alone and you might not know if they might have nobody to speak to, and you might be the only person that speaks to them that day. So a walk for me that should take an hour takes 2 hours, because I talk to everybody in depth. As long as they need to talk to me, I will sit and talk to them. My sister hates going for walks with me for that reason. She said it takes forever, but I don't apologize for it. It's something we've got. It's a gift that we've got to give to other people. So these 2 children, I sit there and I talk to them about, they need to understand what they want. And my partner is a brilliant dad. He's fantastic. And he almost facilitates every single thing they could ever want in life. He predicts it and serves it up to them. And I've said, that's beautiful. And I love what a great dad you are. But I think we need to start thinking about how we help them become fully functioning adults. And that's got to be gently over time. because you can't follow them around when they're 40, giving them everything they want. They've got to learn how to ask for it. I said, I don't ever want your children turning up and asking for coaching from me because we've failed as parents, if that's what happens. So they get it now. So we talk to them about understanding what their needs are. So, for example, they might want some sweets. It's not a need, it's a want. They might want some sweets. And we might walk past the shop, and I know full well they're looking at the shop because they want us to go in and get them some sweets. My partner would say, do you want some sweets? And they would go, yeah. So I say to him, no, we're not doing that. So we walk past and I can see them looking. And as we're getting further away, they're looking and looking. And then when we get past, they've not asked. And we keep walking. And I say, and I stop and I say, right, we just need to stop. I said, did you want some sweets? Yeah. Okay. How do we know you want sweets? Because that's a want or a need for you. And they were like, yeah. I said, but how am I supposed to know what it is you want and need? Well, I don't know. I said, how do you think it might be? How do you think we understand each other? Tell you? Okay. But what if you said no? What if I did say no? What happens then? And you can see them sort of looking at each other. So this is not a trick question. I said, what happens if I say no? Well, we don't get any sweets. I said, and how long will that bother you for? Well, maybe an hour, which means 2 minutes in children's speak. Anyway, over the years, this is what I've been doing them. I said, I need you to start learning how to communicate your needs. I said, because in this world, unless we learn how to say what it is we want, unless we know what it is we want. So first of all, you've got to know what it is you want, and then you've got to know how to say it. You've got to know who has the power to be able to give it to you, and you've got to let go of the fear of not getting it. I went, because no one's going to come in and shoot you if they say no. That's not what happens in this world. I said, and even when you hear a no, it helps you learn, because you learn from no's, because you think, did I ask at the wrong time? Did I ask the wrong person? Was there something in my behavior beforehand that would have meant it's a no? I said, and ask why it's a no. So ask another difficult conversation. Can I just ask Cheryl, why was it a no for sweets today? Because you've already had I said, I will never lie to you and I will always explain things to you. I said, but you've got to be able to learn how to ask for things, and you've got to know what it is you want and need in life. So we've been doing this for years. That's essentially what I do in my coaching. Take this the right way. Anyone who's got children, if your children don't know how to ask for what they want and need right now, you need to go and have a word, because they'll be coming to me in years to come and I'll be teaching them how to ask for sweets, when they should have. This is our job. So what I'm trying to do with those children is show them that there's no fear of having needs in the first place. As humans, as adults walking around, we all have this fear that we shouldn't have needs or wants because we were told as children to be small and neat and polite and quiet. What I'm trying to do is create rebels. You don't have to be neat and polite. You don't have to think about whether it offends me. You have to know what it is you want, and you have to know that you're entitled to have needs in this world. So when people say, how do I overcome this fear? It's coming back to that whole thing again. Why should you be afraid of having needs? It's giving yourself permission to have needs and wants. And that's what I'm trying to do. So if somebody goes away from this conversation that we're having today, go sit down and work out what you want. Go work it out. And then, and I think mirror work, again, I said it earlier about being naked. I mean, do it naked if you want, but do this. But sit down and ask yourself, why should you not be allowed to have a need in life? Give yourself permission. And I tell you, women suffer with this more. And I work with both men and women. Women suffer, particularly mothers suffer with this, because they would give their child everything. Even dads don't do this comparatively to mums. Mums self-sacrifice their needs and wants, and actually to a level of martyrdom, because they get quite, I've given everything up for this. And you go, yeah, that's lovely and that's great. And you're a brilliant mum. But nobody ever asked you to sacrifice all that you are. You still matter. You gave birth to a child, or you adopted a child, or you fostered a child, or you're a stepmother. You still matter. You have to be whole first. But mums tend to have this real challenge with this whole child comes before me, because they won't give themselves permission. It's okay to have needs. So it's all about acceptance. Did I answer the question though? I know I rabbled on about my stepchildren.
You've answered it amazingly well, thank you. And you shared so much, gold there. I didn't realise we were going to be giving parenting lessons as well on the podcast for estate agents, but that's something new there. So thank you. And we've got a great comment here from Lord Neil Giller again. So acceptance and tolerance, be kind to yourself as you're doing the best you can. I think Cheryl and I were split at birth. That said, she swears less than me though. Neil, I promise you she doesn't. Okay.
No, she's
yeah. So stunning, real raw lunchtime learning. So thank you. Thank you for your kind words. So I love what your grandfather said to you about being courageous, not just for you, but being courageous for the people that can't help themselves. Absolutely love that. Thank you for sharing your personal story as well, because that's great. Appreciate it. So a couple of final questions to leave you, please, if that's okay. We mentioned it briefly, accountability and implementation. So it's absolutely fantastic. All the great things you said today, all the great things you said at that Women in Estate Agency conference, absolutely fantastic. But you and I know a lot of people don't take action.
Yeah.
They don't implement stuff. I could have asked you the why question there. Why is that?
Do you know, I was thinking about this earlier because I know we'd spoken about that at the conference, that this was something that you were interested in. The human, just me, not as the coach or the mentor. So if you ask in my friendship group, I have friends that say, I want to do this, I want to do that, and they never do it. I learned at university years and years ago, I was doing a philosophy module as part of my degree. And I studied different theorists and philosophers. And one of them essentially said, wherever it is that you die, whether it's homeless on the street, with nothing to your name, or whether it's a billionaire or whatever, wherever it is that you end up being, that's where you wanted to be. You didn't by chance end up there. That's how you chose, where you unconsciously ended up choosing to be. Because and I know that's really challenging because we've all, some of us have different privilege and some of us have different opportunities. But we've all got our own almost stretch of capability of where we can get. So wherever you are, if you're complaining about your life, if you're saying, I haven't got, those women that left Women in Estate Agency, if they haven't taken action, it's because they didn't want to take action. And they can blame external factors all they want. They can say, well, I'm too busy, haven't got enough time, haven't got enough money. It's all bullshit. It's that you don't want it enough. And actually, that's a really hard thing to swallow. It's a bitter pill to go, my life isn't great or isn't where I want it to be, and it's all on me. It's all on me. That's tough. But it's my opinion. If you're not where you want to be, own it. That's because you don't want it enough. Now, there's no judgment in that. I'm not sat here wagging a finger at someone, but just get over it. If you don't want to earn £1 million, don't earn £1 million. If you want to stay in a job where you're being harassed by somebody or bullied by somebody, it's because your self-worth's not enough and you're not willing to go out there. And there's enough free resources. You don't have to spend a lot of money. There is free resources everywhere. There's an NHS waiting list, admittedly, but get yourself in the waiting list. Go get some therapy for these things. And I've spoke to people who have gone, I've had therapists and they weren't very good. Find another. Oh, but I had 3. Find a 4th. And if you don't, you don't. Now, a lot of people might rinse me for this because they might go, there's mental health concerns there, Cheryl, and you're not being fair. I've had anxiety. I've burned out. I've had depression. You have, Stephen. Think about your losses. But you did something about it and you went through those dark times and it was horrific. And I've been there too. And then there'll be people that don't make it either, that don't. But ultimately, that's where we were meant to be, in my opinion. That's really tough to swallow. And I get into so many arguments with people over this. But accountability for me is whether you want to get up and do something about it. But understand whatever it is I'm saying it with full love. But it's where you choose to be.
Perfect. Thank you. Summed it up really, really nicely.
Painfully.
So, yeah, for some people. So, thank you for being an amazing guest. Thank you for your time. If people want to get hold of you, Cheryl, how do they find you?
LinkedIn is the best way. So I don't know if I'm tagged in this, but I'll tag myself in the comments, and that's the best place to connect with me. I'm most active on LinkedIn.
Fantastic. Well, look, thank you very much for your time. Thank you, everybody, for watching and listening, whether now or on repeat. If you have enjoyed it, please like it, share it, get in touch with Cheryl. And thank you all for watching and for your time. And have a great afternoon, morning, evening, whenever you're watching this. Thanks very much. Thank you,
Thank
Cheryl.
you for having me as well. Thank you.
You're welcome.